My child, pause here a moment and stay with me. I am speaking to you personally, and I do not want you to hurry past these words. This is not meant for a crowd, or for someone else who may happen to hear it. I met you right here in the middle of your scrolling, your thoughts, and your distractions, because I am asking for one full minute of your attention, given with an open heart. I ask for that minute with purpose, with love, and with sincere urgency. What I am about to tell you deserves more than a distracted mind, because it speaks to something much deeper than a passing emotion. Remain here with me and truly listen. I am speaking plainly because this moment matters more than you realize. I am not trying to create drama or stir your emotions for their own sake. I know how quickly life pulls you forward, and I know how easily you promise yourself that you will come back later. I have watched you silence the quiet invitation within your heart while choosing one more distraction instead. That is why I stopped you now and asked for your complete attention, because this moment carries real importance for your life. I rarely interrupt you this way, and I never do it without purpose. I treasure moments, and I do not speak carelessly. When I call you to stop this clearly, it is because something meaningful is before you. Hear me carefully, because remaining where you are is not truly neutral. You will either move forward with greater awareness or continue drifting toward numbness. I am saying this because I love you too deeply to remain silent. This message is not random, and it will not speak to everyone in the same way. Many people will pass by without sensing anything unusual. But you paused because something inside you recognized that this was different. That is not coincidence. Heaven has been attentive to this moment, and so have I. I have been watching over you longer than you know. I have heard the prayers you never found the words to speak, seen the weariness you tried to hide, and remembered the confusion you quietly carried by yourself. I know fear may be rising inside you right now, making you want to pull away simply because this feels serious. Let me replace that fear with the comfort of my nearness. You are not being confronted. You are being invited. You are not in trouble. You are being cared for. Urgency does not always mean danger. Sometimes it simply means something precious is worth stopping for, before it slips past unnoticed. This is not about religion, rituals, performance, or proving your faith. It is not about fixing yourself before you come to me. Let all of that fall away for this moment, because what I am calling you into is awareness. It is about becoming present enough to notice that your life is moving, your time is moving, and your heart has been carrying more than it was ever meant to carry alone. Stay here long enough to recognize that. Please do not dismiss this as just another message, or allow distraction to steal the clarity that is reaching for you. What you choose after this matters, not because everything will fall apart if you walk away, but because you could miss the beginning of something meant to help you breathe again. I know you are tired, and I mean more than physical exhaustion. I know how long you have lived while feeling disconnected from your own heart. I have watched you keep scrolling, stay busy, and fill every quiet space because stillness has felt too heavy, and because silence has a way of bringing thoughts you have tried to avoid. Yet I am waiting for you there, not to overwhelm you, but to steady you. Heaven is fully attentive to this moment because this moment is about direction. You do not need a dramatic sign, and you do not need your whole life to change all at once. What you need is awareness. You need to remain still long enough for truth to settle deeply within you instead of simply passing by. That is why I asked for only 1 minute. 1 minute can change the course of a single day, and 1 day can gently change the direction of an entire life. I am not trying to manipulate your emotions or hold your attention by force. I am inviting you to leave autopilot behind and choose my presence instead. Much of your life has become routine. You do what must be done, say what must be said, and simply make it through another day. But you were created for more than surviving each day. You were created to truly live within the life I have given you. This moment is urgent, not because something terrible is waiting around the corner, but because something good is ready to begin. Every beginning asks to be noticed. A seed grows when it is cared for, protected, and given room to take root. And right now something beautiful is beginning to grow within you. Truth, honesty, and rest. Give me this 1 minute. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breathing become steady. Let your mind stop racing ahead for a little while. You do not have to solve everything today, and you do not have to make every decision right now. For this moment, simply listen. Something begins the moment you truly listen, not later, and not after you feel completely ready, but now. This interruption was intentional. I allowed circumstances to unfold, so your attention would arrive here, because I wanted to meet you in this moment. It is not because you are set apart from everyone else, but because my love is always personal. If these words speak to your heart, type Amen. If the Lord's mercy has carried you before, receive these words without fear. I am not angry with you. I am not disappointed in you, and I am not keeping a record of your failures. My attention has been on your heart, on the burdens you have quietly carried, and on the way you have learned to survive when what you truly needed was rest. For 1 minute, stop surviving and simply remain with me. Small moments of awareness shape the direction of a life just as surely as great decisions do. If you continue putting this moment off, you may keep following the same familiar patterns, always believing you will slow down another day. Days become months, months become years, and before you realize it, your life can begin to feel distant from your own heart. That is not what I desire for you. Please do not pass by these words. Instead, say, let this moment finish what it started. You were meant to hear this now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now. What comes next may not arrive with noise or dramatic signs, but it will be real. Peace will begin to take the place of pressure, clarity will begin to quiet confusion, and genuine connection will begin to replace the numbness that has settled over your heart. I asked you for 1 minute because 1 minute of truly listening can open a door that has seemed closed for a very long time. Stay here with me a little longer, because what you choose after this matters. My child, I want you to understand why I stopped you today. I did not interrupt your life without purpose, and I do not step into your moments carelessly. When I call you to pause like this, it is because I already see what you cannot yet see. I see the direction your heart has been slowly drifting. I see the weight you were preparing to carry without even realizing it, and I see the quiet distance beginning to grow between your heart and your own awareness. This interruption did not surprise me. It was intentional, thoughtful, and filled with mercy from the beginning. You were about to be pulled away once again. It was not by something obviously harmful or loudly destructive, but by the kind of distraction that feels ordinary. One more scroll, one more task, one more moment of escaping into numbness, one more hour passing without truly being present. Those are often the distractions that take the most, because they seem so familiar that they never appear dangerous. They feel comfortable. They feel normal. Little by little, they draw you away from what is still alive within you. I watched your heart reaching for that familiar escape, and I saw your thoughts preparing to drift into constant busyness because stillness was beginning to ask questions you were not yet ready to face. I saw how close you were to putting yourself aside once again. Rest could wait, honesty could wait, and the moment to finally sit with what had been growing inside you could wait, or so it seemed. That is why I stepped in. A loving interruption is never punishment. It is protection, and it is mercy arriving before quiet damage has time to settle into habit. I interrupt because I love you too deeply to let you drift without noticing. I interrupt because I can see where certain roads lead long before you reach their end. Sometimes the greatest danger is not suddenly falling apart, but slowly falling asleep to your own life without realizing it. You may believe interruption feels harsh, but love that never steps in is not truly love. Love warns when it must. Love pauses the moment. Love reaches out when silence would cost too much. If I had allowed you to continue without stopping, nothing dramatic would have happened right away. And that is exactly what makes it so easy to overlook. You would have kept telling yourself that you would slow down later. You would reflect later. You would listen later. Yet later has been quietly slipping farther away with every passing day. I did not interrupt because you were doing something wrong. I interrupted because you were about to miss something right. Something necessary, something that deserved your attention now. I saw the weight growing heavier inside you. I saw weariness beginning to harden into numbness. And I saw the distance between your heart and your awareness becoming wider than it was meant to be. I watched how easily life was teaching you to move forward without stopping to listen to your own soul, and I could not remain silent. If these messages have encouraged your walk with God and you would like to help share them with others, you can support this work through the support link or QR code provided in the description. Every act of support helps continue the mission of bringing hope encouragement, and devotion to God, to those who need it. There is mercy within this urgency, and I want you to understand that. Urgency does not always mean danger is approaching. Sometimes it means help has arrived before temporary patterns become lasting habits. I speak urgently because I care deeply, and because love sometimes must speak clearly when a whisper would no longer be heard. I know you have not been trying to pull away from me on purpose. You have not chosen distance because you wanted it. You have been tired. You have been overwhelmed. You have simply been doing what you believed you needed to do to make it through each day. Yet living in survival mode slowly pulls you away from the deeper places of your heart. It teaches you to stay near the surface because going deeper feels too heavy to carry. I love you too much to let you remain disconnected from yourself forever. This interruption is my gentle invitation to stop, to notice where you are, to notice how you have been living, and to notice what your heart has been carrying. Not with accusation, but with compassion, clarity, and care. You were about to move on again without recognizing that something inside you was asking for attention today, not someday. I speak with urgency because your life matters to me. Your time matters to me. The weight you're carrying matters to me, and I never treat your days as though they are insignificant. I do not assume there will always be another opportunity just like this one. Hearts can change. Habits become deeply rooted. Sensitivity slowly fades when it is continually ignored. That is why I have called you to stop while your heart can still recognize this moment. Perhaps you are beginning to understand the seriousness of what I am saying. This is not fear and is not panic. It is importance. It is the quiet weight of a moment that has the power to change direction without making a great deal of noise. I am not asking you to transform your whole life in a single instant. I am simply asking you to become aware. Another day was about to pass without you truly seeing yourself. Another opportunity to listen was slipping away. Another invitation to choose presence instead of distraction was quietly passing by, and I love you too much to let that happen without reaching for you. I would rather interrupt you now than watch you look back one day, wondering how your heart drifted so far without you noticing. This is why I stepped into your path. You matter. Your heart matters. Who you are becoming matters. You were never created to live on autopilot, because awareness opens the door to healing, and healing begins where distraction finally comes to an end. Stay with me in this truth. Let it settle gently within your heart. You are not stopped by accident. You are interrupted by love. My child, you have heard my voice before. Perhaps it was never with this kind of clarity or weight, yet I have spoken to your heart many times. I came gently, never forcing my way into your life, because a whisper invites closeness in a way that shouting never can. I spoke softly because I wanted you to draw near, not because I wanted to push you away. And you did hear me, even if you questioned what you sensed afterward. I spoke through quiet impressions that seemed difficult to explain, through the pause that came before an important decision, through the uneasiness that remained when everything appeared fine on the surface. I spoke through the thought that returned again and again after you tried to set it aside. What you felt as restlessness or quiet discomfort was more than you realized. That was my gentle leading reaching toward your heart. There were moments when you sensed it was time to stop, yet you kept moving. There were times you felt prompted to speak, but you remained silent, and moments when you knew change was needed, but convinced yourself the time was not right. You delayed because waiting felt safer than responding, and you told yourself you would listen when life became quieter, when circumstances made more sense, or when you finally felt strong enough. I saw every one of those moments, and I understood them. Hear me clearly now. I never condemned you for them. I know how overwhelming life can become, how responsibilities grow louder, and how easily a quiet whisper is overlooked when everything around you is demanding your attention. You were not resisting me out of rebellion. You were weary, cautious, and trying to survive the only way you knew how. I remember the warnings that stirred inside your heart before you pushed them aside. I remember the moments your spirit hesitated, and you convinced yourself you were simply overthinking. Sometimes you turned away from my voice, not because you did not care, but because you were afraid of what listening might ask of you. I know that obedience can feel costly when the outcome is still hidden from view. There were also times when you listened only halfway. You recognized what I was saying, yet you stopped before taking the next step. You acknowledged my prompting but answered with, "Later," or "I'll think about it when life makes more sense." Listening without responding leaves something unfinished, and unfinished things often return because they still need your attention. As you remember those moments, I want you to feel my compassion rather than disappointment. I am not bringing them back to shame you. I am reminding you because they reveal something important. My voice remained faithful even when your response was delayed. I never stopped reaching for you simply because you did not answer right away. That is why my voice sounds clearer now. It is not because I am angry, and it is not because you failed some hidden test. It is because the whispers that once reached you have had to compete with a world that has grown much louder. Distraction has become stronger, and constant noise has become familiar. So I am speaking with greater clarity. Love knows how to speak in the way it needs to be heard. When I call to you again and again, it is never rejection. It is mercy. It means I still desire your attention, and I still care enough to reach for your heart. I repeat myself because these words still matter, because the opportunity before you is still open, and because what could once wait should not continue to be delayed. When the same thought returns, when the same question refuses to disappear, or when a quiet discomfort remains unresolved, do not assume it is meaningless. Often it is asking to be noticed. I do not repeat my voice to frustrate you. I repeat it because I desire to protect you. Even when you postponed listening, I remained near, guiding your steps, softening what could have been heavier, and guarding you from things you never saw. Yet there comes a time when remaining silent would cause more harm than speaking plainly. There comes a moment when love must become unmistakably clear, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. That is where you are today. I want you to hear me stand this because you have recognized my voice before. You are able to recognize it now. You are not far from me. You are not beyond my reach, and you have never been beyond my care. Even the faintest recognition of my voice is evidence of relationship, and relationship is what allows urgency to be received as love instead of fear. If you feel regret when you remember the times you delayed, let that regret become awareness rather than shame. Awareness strengthens discernment, while shame only dulls it. I am not asking you to live in the past. I am asking you to learn from it. Those moments revealed where fear spoke the loudest and where trust still needed room to grow. Today I am inviting you to listen with your whole heart, to respond instead of postponing, and to remain present instead of quietly drifting away. This is not because I would stop speaking if you delayed again. It is because repeated delay slowly teaches the heart to stop listening. I desire your heart to remain sensitive, alive, and responsive. I continue calling because I still want you close. I continue speaking because there is still time, and I continue reaching because you still matter deeply to me. The stronger voice you hear today is not the voice of anger, it is the voice of clarity. It is love refusing to leave you without direction. Stay here with me, and let this invitation settle more deeply than the ones before it. You heard me then, and you are hearing me now. What you choose to do with this moment will shape how clearly you recognize my voice in the days ahead. I am here. I am speaking. I am waiting for you, not with judgment, but with hope. If these words have spoken to your heart, comment Amen. If you are believing for God's restoration, receive this message with faith as you continue listening. My child, I need you to hear what comes next with honesty, not with fear or panic. What is at stake in this moment is not punishment, and it is not my love for you. My love for you is secure. It does not shift with your circumstances, and it does not rise or fall with your performance. What is before you now is something different. It is about direction, sensitivity, and the quiet shaping of your future that unfolds through moments like this. Not through dramatic events, but through the choices to respond or to delay. Delay carries spiritual consequences, and I tell you this because it is true, not because I want to frighten you. When something in your heart needs your attention and it is postponed again and again, you slowly become accustomed to carrying burdens that were never meant to remain unresolved. What once felt uncomfortable begins to feel ordinary. What once stirred your spirit fades into the background until you hardly notice it anymore. That is the quiet danger of delay. It is rarely a sudden collapse. More often, it is a gradual dulling of the heart. I want you to understand this clearly. Your delays do not make me leave you, and they do not lessen my love for you. They do, however, affect how clearly you recognize my voice, how freely you walk, and how deeply you experience my peace. When you keep postponing what you already sense I am showing you, clarity slowly becomes clouded. You begin to question what once seemed certain. You second-guess the discernment I have been forming within you, and before long distraction begins to guide you more than direction. This is not punishment. It is the natural consequence of neglect, just as a body grows weak when it goes without food, not because nourishment disappeared, but because it was never received. There are opportunities before you right now that are connected to timing. Not every open door closes with noise. Some simply become unavailable as seasons quietly change. Moments of growth, healing, and renewed direction remain open for a time, waiting for a willing heart to respond. When awareness is delayed too long, the season moves forward. That does not mean every opportunity is lost, but it does mean the journey often becomes more difficult than it needed to be. Lessons return instead of giving way to progress. Peace feels farther away, joy becomes harder to reach, and life begins to carry a weight you were never meant to bear. That is why I am speaking to you now. There are windows that also close, my child. Windows of sensitivity, windows of courage, windows of openness. When your heart remains aware and responsive, growth comes more freely. But every time you answer with later, something inside you slowly learns to stay guarded. Guarded hearts may survive, but they rarely flourish. And you were created for far more than simply surviving. I am not saying these things to fill you with anxiety. Anxiety has never produced clarity. I am inviting you into urgency without panic, because there is a difference between the two. Panic tells you everything will fall apart unless you act immediately. Loving urgency simply reminds you that this moment matters, while it can still be shaped with gentleness and wisdom. What is at stake today is your sensitivity to truth. It is your ability to recognize when something within you needs attention. It is your courage to pause instead of reaching for another distraction, and your willingness to remain present instead of quietly drifting away. These qualities rarely disappear overnight, but they can gradually weaken when they are continually ignored. Once they have grown dull, restoring them often requires far more than simply listening would have. You may wonder why I speak about open doors and closing windows when nothing around you seems dramatic. It is because the deepest changes usually begin where no one else can see them. They begin with a heart that chooses to listen, a soul that no longer runs from stillness, and a willingness to respond today instead of postponing until tomorrow. Those quiet decisions often shape the paths that open before you later. If you let this moment pass, life will most likely continue as it always has. Nothing will suddenly fall apart, and that is exactly why delay feels so convincing. Yet you will continue carrying a little more weight, a little more numbness, and a little less clarity. Over time, those small changes gather until you begin wondering why peace feels farther away, why direction seems uncertain, and why joy feels harder to find. The answer is often found, not in one great failure, but in many small delays. I am not asking you to solve everything today, and I am not asking you to repair your entire life in a single moment. I am simply asking you to honor this moment, to let these words settle deeply, to allow them to awaken your awareness, and to choose listening instead of avoidance. That single decision begins to change direction. Urgency without panic feels steady. It feels like clarity quietly settling into your heart. It feels like recognizing that this moment matters without becoming overwhelmed by it. It is knowing there is no need to run, yet there is every reason to stop drifting. That is what I desire for you now. What is at stake is not my approval, because my love for you has already been settled. What is before you is whether you continue through life unconsciously or begin walking with awareness and intention. Awareness leads toward freedom. Unawareness quietly repeats the same patterns. I am speaking now because the door to awareness is still open. Your heart is still able to recognize this moment instead of passing it by. It has not grown completely numb, and that matters more than you know. Stay here with me in this clarity. Do not let fear hurry you forward, and do not let comfort gently lull you back to sleep. Let this loving urgency sharpen your awareness, because this is not about pressure. It is about my care for you and for the way your future unfolds. I desire that future to become lighter, clearer, and more fully alive than it has been for a long time. My child, I see how distraction has quietly settled into your life, even if you have hardly noticed it yourself. It did not arrive looking dangerous. It came disguised as relief: a few moments of scrolling to quiet your mind, constant noise to avoid silence, endless movement so you would not have to face what had been building beneath the surface. I see every part of it, and I speak to you now with understanding, not anger. Your days have become crowded with sounds, images, conversations, updates, responsibilities, and endless demands for your attention. Your mind rarely finds true rest. Even when your body becomes still, your thoughts continue racing. You reach for your phone almost without thinking, and empty moments are quickly filled before silence has a chance to speak. You have stayed busy, not because you love being busy, but because stillness has begun to feel unfamiliar. Stillness asks questions your heart has not been ready to answer. You did not choose distraction because you were careless. You chose it because you were tired. You were overwhelmed. You longed for relief from the weight you had been carrying, and distraction seemed like a way to catch your breath without having to face the pain. In those moments, numbness felt easier than feeling. I understand why you have been living this way, and I am not disappointed in you because of it. I see what has been underneath your choices, and I know the weariness that led you here. I know there were days when you simply wanted enough quiet to make it through the next hour, and moments when distraction felt easier than facing what your heart was carrying. Still, I want you to understand something with gentleness and clarity. When distraction becomes constant, it slowly dulls your spiritual sensitivity, not all at once, but so gradually that you hardly notice it happening. When your attention is always pulled outward, your inner awareness grows quieter. It has not disappeared. It has simply been overlooked beneath everything competing for your attention. As that continues, recognizing my voice becomes more difficult, not because I have stopped speaking, but because your heart has had so little room to become still enough to hear me. My voice has remained steady through every season. Perhaps you have already begun to recognize this quiet distance, even if you could not find the words to explain it. Prayer has become harder to settle into. Silence feels restless instead of peaceful, and your thoughts seem to scatter before they can come to rest. Even in the middle of busy days and crowded places, you sometimes feel strangely disconnected from yourself, as though you are moving through life without fully being present in it. That is not because you are failing spiritually. It is because your attention has slowly been trained to avoid going deeper, choosing constant movement over quiet reflection simply because stillness has started to feel unfamiliar. Distraction does not make you a bad person. It leaves you numb, and numbness is dangerous because it quietly steals your awareness long before you notice it. You stop recognizing what your heart is feeling. You stop noticing what your soul truly needs. The quiet invitations within you become easier to overlook until they almost blend into the background of everyday life. Eventually, you overlook the places inside you that have been patiently asking for care all along. When awareness begins to fade, life can feel empty even while it appears full. I see how often you reach for another scroll, not because you are searching for something meaningful, but because you are trying to escape. You are escaping the silence, avoiding difficult emotions, and postponing the quiet realization that something inside you longs for attention. What begins as a brief distraction slowly becomes a habit, and habits have a way of shaping the direction of your heart without asking for permission. You tell yourself, it is only a moment, just a short break. Yet those moments gather one after another until avoiding stillness begins to feel completely normal. Before long, reaching for noise becomes more instinctive than sitting quietly with your own thoughts. I am not angry with you because of that. I am simply calling you back to awareness, because awareness is where healing quietly begins. Awareness is never condemnation, it is compassion. It is the grace to honestly see where you are, without punishing yourself for being there. It allows you to acknowledge your condition without believing you have been abandoned because of it. That is what I am inviting you into right now, a place where honesty and grace can exist together. I am not asking you to abandon your responsibilities or withdraw from the world. I am not asking you to spend every moment in silence. I am inviting you to stop running from your own heart. Notice those moments when your hand reaches for noise almost automatically, and gently ask yourself what you are trying to avoid before moving on. Sometimes the question itself opens the door to the healing you have been searching for. Come back to stillness with me. There is no force here, no harsh demand, and no heavy burden. Stillness is not emptiness. It is a place where your breathing slows, your thoughts begin to settle, and your heart can feel again without becoming overwhelmed. It is the quiet space where what has been buried beneath constant activity is finally able to rise into the light with gentleness instead of fear. Stillness is where my voice becomes easiest to recognize. Not because I have been speaking more loudly, but because your heart has become open enough to receive what has always been there. I have never stopped speaking to you. I have spoken through gentle nudges, quiet discomfort, deep longing, and the persistent feeling that there is something more waiting for you. I have met you in ordinary moments as often as extraordinary ones, patiently speaking even when you did not realize I was near. The noise around you has simply become louder. Come back to awareness with me now. Notice your breathing, notice your body, notice what is happening within you without trying to fix everything immediately. Let yourself simply become present for this moment. You do not need every answer today. For this moment, you only need to stop running. Let stillness become a safe place again. I have always been here in the quiet, waiting for you. I am not waiting to accuse you. I am waiting to meet you, to remind you who you are beneath all the noise, to restore the sensitivity that constant distraction has slowly worn down, and to help you feel truly alive again instead of overwhelmed. The quiet you have been avoiding is also the place where my peace has been waiting for you. Distraction has kept your schedule full, but it has never satisfied the deeper places of your heart. It has filled your time without filling your soul. At first, stillness may feel unfamiliar because you have spent so long without it. That does not mean something is wrong. It may simply be the beginning of healing, as your heart remembers what it feels like to rest again. Stay here with me for a little longer. Let the noise settle. Let awareness return gently instead of forcefully. There is no need to rush this process, because lasting change often begins quietly. You no longer have to keep escaping, because you are safe here with me. My child, I want you to hear these words without allowing fear or old wounds to reshape them. What I am saying to you is not a threat. It is an expression of my love. Urgency does not always mean danger is approaching. Sometimes it means love cares too deeply to remain silent. Sometimes it means compassion is close enough to interrupt your path before you wander farther away, because your heart is too precious to be left alone in its weariness. Fear raises its voice to control. Love speaks to protect. That is the place from which I am speaking to you now. I know that when you hear words of urgency, part of you immediately becomes tense, because your past has taught you to expect pressure, punishment, or loss. I understand why your heart braces itself, but my heart toward you has always been different. You have heard demanding voices before. You have known people and systems that used fear to force obedience instead of offering love. Because of that, when my voice becomes firm, part of your heart prepares itself for condemnation. Let me lift that fear from you. Do not confuse my loving conviction with the voices that once wounded you, because they do not come from the same place. I am not speaking to threaten you. I am speaking to guard you. Fear says, act now or suffer the consequences. Love says, come closer. This moment matters. Fear creates panic. Love brings clarity. Fear drives you faster than wisdom. Love teaches you to pause long enough to see what truly matters. What I am saying carries weight, but it carries that weight because it is filled with care, attention, and protection. I warn you because I love you. I do not seek obedience that rose out of fear. I speak because I see what you cannot yet see, and I refuse to remain silent while you move toward unnecessary pain. Silence in moments like this would not be kindness. It would be neglect. Love does not always remove every difficulty, but it faithfully speaks before a wandering heart travels farther than it realizes. I am not a distant God who watches my children struggle without speaking. I am present, and I speak when my words are needed. Throughout history, I have always warned those I loved, not with cruelty, but with compassion. I warned Noah because I desired to preserve him. I warned Lot because I wanted to lead him away from destruction. I warned Israel again and again because my desire was always to draw them back into closeness with me. Every warning carried the hope of restoration because my heart has always been to bring my people nearer, never to push them away. Every warning was an invitation toward life, never a threat meant to take life away. Even when my warnings were ignored, my love remained steadfast. My patience endured, my compassion remained, and my desire to draw near never changed. If these words have spoken to your heart, say, Amen. If Scripture is the lamp that guides your path each day, share this video with someone who may need this encouragement.